All right. There's a couple more joining, but we do have a lot to cover today. So, about a minute or so after the hour. So, welcome. This is the Best Practice Configuration and Automation webinar for NextGen. We will have all of you in listen only mode during the progress, and then if you have questions, we will wait and hopefully we'll get some time at the end to answer those, but submit those in the question box that is at the bottom of your menu, and just put those in there. And if we don't get to them during the presentation, we will make sure you get an answer afterwards. Don't worry. All right, a few things about eMedApps. We are a healthcare information technology services company providing practices, clinics, and hospitals with a full range of services, as well as a suite of products designed to increase efficiency and facilitate communication. We were founded in 1999. We've worked as a partner with NextGen since 2001. We work as a subcontractor for NextGen. We serve healthcare clients all across the USA, and we have a line of services and products specifically for NextGen clients. We also have some products that work with other EHRs as well. Alrighty, and go out there and follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'd love to have you. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and we do have a YouTube channel that has many of our recorded webinars. So feel free to go out there and just search for eMedApps. We'd love to have you follow us on any of those platforms. Okay, about our presenters today. First off, we have Yvette, and she is got 14 years of experience with NextGen. She's a NextGen certified in EPM, EMR, Patient Portal, and ICS. She has over 17 years of experience in the healthcare industry, and she's typically responsible for implementation, project management, template development, workflow design, training, and the support of the NextGen EHR products. So quite a lot. And a fun fact about Yvette, she placed first in the 1999 Junior Olympics for judo. So good tip to know. Our other presenter today will be Fred. He has over 20 years of experience as a systems and infrastructure engineer. He has a bachelor's in computer information systems, and he's been with eMedApps for almost 3 years and is typically responsible for our hosting platform implementations and our server migrations. A wealth of knowledge. When he's outside of work, he enjoys reading and spending time with his 2 dogs, Mickey and Man Man. So welcome, Yvette and Fred.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start our webinar. Today we're going to go over some best practice, configuration and automations within NextGen. So what that's going to include, it's going to include, information about the background business processor within NextGen. I like to call that NextGen's assistant within NextGen that'll help, your practice run many of the items on the background, so your staff doesn't have to do that manually, from running reports, creating claims, printing items to, statements, recall letters to a specific printer monthly on a or biweekly basis. And then we're also going to talk about some of those technical aspects of the background business processor as well. We're going to talk about NextGen Communication Services, NCS, which all of your e-prescribing, if you guys are not on 2021 yet, your portal messages go through there as well, some common troubleshooting tricks and tips, and then also kind of show you guys an automation with pharmacy downloads that you can do through NCS that you might not be aware of today. We're also going to go through the offline document processor, which is called the ODP. And what that does is it'll go ahead and send, documents from NextGen, like your master IM, chart note, and so on, to another server to be generated, and it'll go ahead and display on that encounter. So it cuts time on the provider so they don't have to sit there and watch these documents generate. It'll be there and available for them when they need it. And then also, how to install that, how to get that service running automatically within a server, and some of the configurations as well to help you guys achieve automation and hopefully get your practice to run a little bit smoother. So the first one we're going to talk about is the NCS, NextGen Communication Services. So what is NCS? So NCS is, usually installed on your communication server, and it usually will send your electronic prescriptions, retail and mail order, pharmacy prescription requests, So that information, patient goes to the pharmacy, requests for a refill. The pharmacy will go ahead and send that information to SureScripts. SureScripts will go ahead and send that to the next-gen servers, and then it'll go ahead and come in through the NCS. Provider information, pharmacy details, which I'll tell you guys a little bit more about here in a little bit. And then it'll also process your portal messages if you guys are not yet on MedFusion. All right. So how does NCS work for e-prescribing? So I kind of touched on this a little bit already, but basically there's a lot of information on here. But basically the provider submits an order for e-prescribing within the medications module. NCS will go ahead and scan the database, see that the provider has submitted a prescription. It'll go ahead and pick that up, send it to the SureScripts servers, and then SureScripts will say, we'll see what pharmacy that's supposed to be sent to, and then it'll go ahead and send that information out to the pharmacy. Same way does it work the way back. Patient comes in, asks for a refill, the pharmacy sends that information to SureScripts, SureScripts sends that back, and then that information gets displayed to the provider within NextGen. So it's just, that's why they call it the communication services, because it provides communication between the servers. And sometimes, the NCS could get stuck, or, you'll notice that your providers are saying that their e-prescription's not going out. Many times, issues can be resolved by restarting the NCS server. And we're going to go ahead and let Fred talk about how to do that within your NCS.
Thanks, Yvette. We're now going to review how to restart the next-gen communication services. The reason why this is important is because there might be a time where manual intervention is required. For example, because enrolled patient appointment information or real-time appointment forwarding isn't being synchronized. The next-gen communication services consist of multiple Windows services, which could be accessed in Windows under services.msc. The first service is called NextGen Message Relay, which you will need to right-click and select Stop. This will also stop the second service, which is named NextGen Queuing Processing. You will then need to right-click on the NextGen Queue Processing service and select Start, and this will automatically start both NCS services. Once the NCS services have been restarted, you'll need to launch the NextGen Communication Services application, which is located on the desktop. Once the application is launched, press the Poll Now button, which will initiate a sync of all queue processors.
So the next topic that we're going to go ahead and discuss is the automatic pharmacy download. Sorry about that. So within NCS, you do have the ability to automatically download pharmacies in NextGen. So I know a lot of you guys, that if you guys are downloading pharmacies for your providers in NextGen, you log into file maintenance, you go ahead and, put in a zip code, a radius, search, and then you can go ahead and click Apply Now to download those into your system. Now, you might have it on your calendar to remind you to do it once a month, bi-weekly, or so on. NCS can actually do that automatically for you based on your setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and again, this is only available in 5.9 and up. Hopefully you guys are on one of those versions. I will go ahead and let you know how to do this. So once you guys have logged into your NextGen Communication Services, you will go ahead and stop all the services within the application, and then you'll go ahead and select Settings. Depending on the practice, you guys may or may not have a password set. If you guys do, please reach out to your IT department. They'll be able to assist you with that. Then you're going to go ahead and click Next through a couple of the configuration screens. Make sure that you guys are connected to the ngprod database. And then you guys will get to this screen over here. So I can go ahead and expand out my ngprod. I'll have my e-prescribing retail. Down here, I have e-prescribing retail pharmacy download. So there's two options that I want to go ahead and set. There's auto match, and then there's import new pharmacies. So AutoMatch will allow newly downloaded pharmacies to be auto-matched to pharmacies that already exist in your system. So, maybe there was a pharmacy added manually by your staff, or a fax number has changed, maybe an address has changed to a pharmacy, so on. It will go ahead and auto-match and update that information. The second one, import new pharmacies, is exactly what it says. So this will allow new pharmacies to be downloaded when they become available. Once you guys set these two options, we'll go through next and then go through the screens, and then the last screen will allow you to configure. It'll go ahead and stop all the services within NCS, and it'll go ahead and restart them. And then you'll be able to close out. So you guys might be thinking, how do we tell it which pharmacies do we want to download? We don't want to download everything from all 50 states. We just want to download the pharmacies that are pertinent to your users, correct? So this is where we go back to file maintenance. So in file maintenance, when we go in and select file and then download pharmacy, under the bulk pharmacy search, you guys can enter your zip codes and the distance, the radius for that zip code that we want to search. So I always like to say, go ahead and enter all of your location's zip codes and do either a 30 or 60 mile radius to all of those locations, and then just leave that in here. NCS is going to go ahead and reference this when it's looking for those new pharmacies or to try to match those pharmacies within the system. So this will definitely help your practice. So when the provider, is trying to send a prescription out to a pharmacy, the information's always there for them. It's always ready. Maybe the front desk staff is entering the pharmacies as they're checking in the patients. You always want to make sure that the information's there for them so they can go ahead and move on. Cut down on IT tickets to download the pharmacy within the system. Another option I want to remind you guys about is NextGen does give you guys the ability to download pharmacies within the medications module. If you guys don't have this right turned on, you guys might want to consider turning it on. And this is within System Admin. It's under Medications, Allow Pharmacy Downloads, and then you would just mark that as a yes. What this will allow you guys to do is when you are in the medications module, I've got a screenshot here, and I'm searching for a pharmacy and I cannot find it. I get this button down here that says Add Pharmacy to System. I can search for the pharmacy, add it directly to there, and then send my prescription out for the patient so there's no delay in care. They don't have to wait for IT to go through into file maintenance, download that information, and just makes the process go a little bit quicker. So that's something you guys might want to consider turning on for your practice. The next thing we're going to go through is the background business processor, the BBP. NextGen's great assistant that will help you guys automate a lot of the things that you guys are doing within the clinics manually. So it'll, assist you with, running reports, month-end reports, weekly, daily reports. It can go ahead and run your statements. Maybe you guys are doing that as a manual process. You guys might be printing them. You guys might be exporting them. This way, those items are never forgotten. The information is there for you. It's ready to go. Billing and counters, claims generation, collection and recall letter generation, directory imports, stored procedures that could even run, person merge processing to merge those charts, RTS eligibility and claim requests, that could be ran throughout the day and then download those responses. So staff aren't doing that information manually. It's available for them within NextGen when they're seeing the patient. PM memorized reports, inbound faxing too. So if you guys have, my fax is coming in, it can go ahead and go to a specific folder within the shared drive. Within jobs can be set up so those batches are automatically created for your document management staff to go ahead and just pick up and just file that batch. They don't have to go searching for those files and then creating the batch. It's already there for them. These are just a few of the items that are available with BBP, but there's many, many more within there. So like I said, the BBP can automate many daily tasks. Some of the common uses are, exporting reports to a shared drive. One thing that we usually recommend with this, if you guys are using this, is go ahead and export that information to a shared drive versus a personal. If there's any staff turnaround, somebody else might need that same report, and if, there's some, maybe some of the billing reports, you guys don't want everybody to be able to see that information for financials. You guys can set, folders to be protected on shared drives, so only certain people have access to that. So that's always a better way to do it. Emailing reports to specific users or groups, that's available. We'll show you guys how to set up the emailing option within the BDP. One thing I do like to recommend is, if you guys are using email feature, is send it out to a distribution list. Don't set specific users within that package, because, if there's any staff turnaround or if somebody needs to be added, that generates a ticket to IT. This way, within the distribution list, it's going to that group of people that it needs to go to that are working on that. And then the BBP job doesn't have to be adjusted or changed, and so on. Printing specific reports, statements, recall letters on a schedule, so they're never missed. Month-end reports, you could set it to run on the first of every month. It'll go ahead and run on the background when your staff comes in. All those reports are available and ready for them within the shared drive. They can go ahead and review the information and do what they need to do. Same thing can be done for your daily, weekly, biweekly. There's several different schedules that you can run within there for all of these different jobs. So BBP setup and requirements are generally unique to the practice. The data needed to be processed, the number of required BBP processes, and workflow may be specific to the unique individual practice utilizing the tools. So, depends on how many reports you guys are running, how often those reports are run or statements, how much data, how large is the practice, do we need to take a look at these jobs and, maybe they're running into each other and some of our BBP jobs are failing. Maybe we need to go ahead and spin up another BBP server to be able to handle the load that the practice has. And that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about within the next couple slides, the different severity between the jobs and how to determine scheduling of those as well. So there's 4 distinct categories that the BBP packages can be categorized in processing needs. So there's severe, heavy, moderate, and light. So a severe package is a package that results 2 hours or more of duration. So anything that takes 2 hours or more to run is considered severe. Heavy is a package that results in 2 hours but greater than 1 hour of duration for the package. Moderate is a package that results in less than 1 hour but greater than 30 minutes of execution for the package. And then light is a standard package that results in less than 30 minutes of processing time to complete. So how often a package is scheduled can also have an impact on processing load time. So a statement job, for example, that's maybe, ran to print or export 30 days of statements at one time is going to have a much higher impact on your BBP because there's a lot more statements that we're running. If we're, scheduling it biweekly or weekly, that's a lot less statements within that job. So the job's going to go ahead and run quicker for us. So if you guys are, taking a look at your packages, they're running into each other, that's something you guys might want to consider. And of course, the package of month-end reports will have a higher category than the package of weekly reports. So again, it depends on the individual practice and how they're utilizing the BBP of how these things will go ahead and affect. So this is just a sum of some of the jobs that can be ran from the BBP and their typical processing loads. So over here, you guys could see, 997 directory import. If we do it daily, it's only light. Weekly, moderate, monthly. Of course, there's more data in there to process, so it's heavy. If we come down here and look at batch posting, even at daily, that's heavy. Weekly, severe, monthly, severe. ERA directory import, heavy. severe person merge, it's always a severe job. It's very data intensive on the system. And then we have the RTS as well. When looking at these things, you guys want to take a look at this too. If you guys have these running against your production database, and your users and your system might be getting slowed down, might be worthwhile to take a look at the BBP and see, do I have some of these heavy or severe jobs running throughout the day that's hitting our production database that's slowing the system down? So that's one thing to consider when you guys are taking a look at it, and make sure that you guys aren't running a ton of information during peak production hours.
The background business processor consists of multiple components that work together. As stated before by Yvette, the BBP manager allows you to create or schedule jobs and packages, stores jobs and packages you configure, and controls the next-gen background business engine service. In the background, the next-gen background business processor engine service regularly queries the next-gen database to execute scheduled packages by using the next-gen report server or the next-gen enterprise PM. The next-gen background business processor server must meet the following requirements to run all instances of the next-gen application. For light and moderate process categories and for packages that do not run against the report server, the following hardware requirements apply. Single processor, 2 gigs of memory, and any Windows operating system with 32-bit support. For heavy or severe process categories and for packages that target or require report server processes, the following hardware requirements apply. Dual core processor, 4 gigs of memory, and any Windows operating system with 32-bit support. Keep in mind additional servers can be added as needed to handle job loads. NextGen requires that PM runs in 32-bit mode. This job does not mean you cannot install BBP on a 64-bit platform. It's just that it will run in 32-bit mode. You can also run BBP Server on virtual servers like VMware and Hyper-V. Just ensure that these servers meet the same hardware requirements as specified before. The server running the BBP engine must be running 24 hours a day. If the BBP engine is not active during the scheduled process times, the process will not run. We always recommend that the BBP service engine has a dedicated Active Directory service account, which has permissions to log in as a service, has the required printers installed, and has read-write permissions to the network shares specified in the BBP jobs. You can also configure BBP to send email notifications when a package process succeeds, fails, or completes. You can also set BBP to email exported files and reports as attachments to specific recipients. To set up BBP email settings, you can launch the BBP Manager located under CNextGen and go to File menu and select Email Settings. From there, you need to specify the from address, the to address, and the email server settings like SMTP server name and the SMTP authentication type. Once the email settings have been configured, you can go ahead to each job and specify notification email address and email export file to settings.
Okay, so some of the scheduling requirement recommendations that we have when you guys are running these jobs. So multiple jobs scheduled for each package, always run sequentially and never overlap. So I'll show you guys a report that's available that you guys can run from the EPN in a couple slides here. That'll go ahead and allow you to see what's running, how long it takes to run, and see if you guys need to make any modifications there. If you guys see that you guys are, overloading the BBP, everything's running into each other. Again, like I said, you guys can always spin up an extra instance of the BBP and run separate jobs there as well. Packages schedules are based on optimum network and database availability. Scheduling guidelines are based on operating schedule that runs during off business hours. Again, like I said previously, some of those heavy or severe impact jobs, you guys don't want to be running throughout the day against your production database, especially, reports or whatever. If you guys do need those during the day, we want to make sure that we're rerouting that information to our report server. Optimum scheduling, again, is unique and distinct to the practice. So it just definitely depends on how you guys are using the BBP, how many options within the BBP you guys are using. BBP services accounted for 24-hour or during operational hours schedule, as negative impact to the network or database performance can be impacted severely, depending on a variety of factors within there. The recommended scheduling guideline requirements are no more than 2 instances of EPM run at the same time on the same machine to prevent maximum load and processing capacity. This is based on the hardware guidelines outlined previously, and then no more than 1 BBP package scheduled to run at any given time per BBP service available. And like I said earlier, this is the report that we have available within the system. If you guys log into the EPM, go under Report, General, BBP Schedule. Under Filter 1, you guys can adjust when it was scheduled. So you guys can go ahead and, to get a good picture, maybe see like a week's worth of data within there. Take a look at last week. And then below here is a little example of what the report looks like. So if you guys have multiple servers running, it'll go ahead and let you know the server name, the package name, when did it run, how long did that package run, did it succeed or did it fail, job name, how long each individual job within that package took to run, did those individual jobs within that package fail or succeed, exit description, and so on. So if you guys take a look at this and you guys see, 243, 253, why are these failing? Maybe they're tripping up against each other. We need to go ahead and schedule that out so our job doesn't fail. Now, there's a couple other items you guys want to consider when you guys are scheduling your BBP jobs. And that's to ensure that they don't overlap with any SQL Server jobs. There's daily, weekly maintenance. There's also backups that run on your SQL Server, which themselves are also very data intensive. So you want to check with your IT or DBA to give you a schedule of when those SQL jobs are run, so you can make sure that you're scheduling your BBP jobs around that so you don't get any failures or missing information within those. Now, these daily, weekly maintenance and backups, these are usually either, they're always run on off hours, so either late evening or weekends, but definitely something to consider when you guys are scheduling your BBP jobs. Another thing that I want to make sure that you guys are using, I think most practices are using the report server. If you guys are running reports during the day, even though you're running it on the BBP and you guys have it set to run against your production database, you're still running that against ngprod, so it could slow your users down. So we highly recommend using the report server for those large data intensive reports that need to be ran. Reroute those to your report server. You can check with your IT staff or your DBA to see when your database gets copied over. Sometimes, that information is a day behind, or depending on the setup that you guys have, it might be refreshed every, up to 5 minutes or so behind. So definitely check with your IT staff or DBA and find out how often your report server is refreshed for your practice. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and discuss the offline document processor. So the offline document processor is a tool to assist with document generation from the EHR. So it basically does the same thing as generating your master IM or a chart note within the EHR and, watching that document generate and then have it display. Offline document processor, you can configure NextGen. You pick a button. It'll go ahead and send the information to the offline document processor. It'll go ahead, generate the document for you, and then display it within the encounter. So if you guys have on your finalized template to submit the master document or chart note upon charge submission, you can send that to the offline document processor. So the doctor doesn't have to sit there and watch that document generate within the system. They can go ahead and close that chart, move on to the next one. And at the end of the day, they can go ahead and log into their PAQ, provider approval queue, and sign off on all those documents because they'll all be available there for them. So it increases speed, which the clinical documents are generated. If you guys are a large practice, you guys might want to consider running multiple instances on multiple servers, because sometimes they can get bogged down. Providers, want to see their information quicker, and it's not available for them. If that does happen to you guys, multiple instances can be spun up for that as well. So offline document processor, what? It's a behind-the-scenes document generator. It's used by your end users completing your typical workflow. So I just gave you guys that example of submitting the charge and generating the master IM. Where is it? It's kept running on a server or a standalone workstation. And in a few slides, Fred's going to let you guys know how to either get the offline document processor running manually on a server, or setting up a job that'll basically go ahead and start that service for you automatically. When it's utilized to generate documents from the EHR, from some templates, or even the document module. How an administrator would set up the program and monitor it to ensure it is running during EHR visits. Okay. So, like I said, in the next couple slides, we'll go over 2 options of running the ODP server. The first option is setting up a task scheduler. This is recommended so you can ensure that the ODP is always running. There's no reason to start the ODP manually, and if forgotten, it will not disrupt your clinic workflow. So if you guys are doing any Windows updates, the server needs to be restarted. If you guys don't have a task scheduler set, and whoever has restarted that server forgets to restart the ODP service manually, that's, providers are going to come in the morning, they're going to start generating documents, and they're not displaying within there. The second one is the manual option. So anytime a server is restarted, or if even the user that the ODP is logged into gets logged out, that information, the service will need to be restarted manually. So the first option is always recommended, and Fred's going to go ahead and let us know how to do that now.
Sure. The offline document processor consists of 2 standalone executables, which are located under the C NextGen directory. They're named batchdoc.exe and emr.docproc.exe. The batchdoc.exe is the high edit documents, generally in 6.x kbm. The emr.docproc.exe is for TX text documents, generally 8.x kbm and higher. It's recommended to create a dedicated ODP Windows account which has local administrator permissions, including domain read-write access to NextGen root. To create a desktop shortcut for ODP, log into the dedicated ODP workstation or server as the ODP Windows account and browse to the C NextGen folder and find the appropriate ODP executable. Right-click and send to desktop. There are times where the ODP processor can stop running. It's recommended to create a batch script, which will allow you to stop and restart the ODP executables. This is good practice to ensure that the ODP is running correctly. Here is a procedure to test the batch script. Make sure setDB is configured for the appropriate database. In most cases, it would be ngprod. Navigate to where you've saved the batch script, launch the batch script, and ensure that the ODP processor has started. Here's a step-by-step on how to create a scheduled task to run the ODP stop and restart batch script on a daily schedule. This is best practice to ensure ODP is automatically restarted daily to ensure ODP is functioning as designed. Here is another step-by-step on how to set up the ODP Windows account to automatically log on after reboot and launch the document processor. This is achieved by copying the EMR docproc shortcut located under C NextGen by placing it under the Windows Startup folder. You can then download the auto login from Microsoft Assistant internals and set up the DocGen Windows account to automatically log in after reboot. This is a convenient way to ensure ODP is running after Windows updates have been installed and the workstation or server is rebooted. To run ODP manually, log into the server or workstation and go to See NextGen and launch EMR DocProp. Keep in mind that you cannot log out of the account that the ODP is running on. If the account is logged off or the workstation or server is restarted, then the ODP must be restarted.
All right, thank you, Fred. So the document queue basically uses the same software as a real-time document generation, similar requirements to the NextGen EHR Enterprise. You should not run multiple instances of EMR DocProc EXE on the same machine. If a single instance of the document queue is not sufficient to handle practice typical offline volume, it is acceptable to launch additional instances on that separate workstation if each workstation only has a single instance running. So like I said earlier, you guys are sending a bunch of documents to the offline document processor. You notice that it's taking a while for those documents to come back and be viewable on the encounter. It's because it's working really, really hard. You might want to consider, spinning up a couple more instances of this within NextGen. It's within the different servers. And option one that Fred went through is definitely your better option. As a lot of times, staff will come in after a server reboot. The providers are generating the documents. Their documents aren't available. They have to start a ticket with IT. Now, if the ODP is not running, and your staff is sending documents to the ODP, those will go ahead and get queued up. Once you guys start the offline document processor, it'll recognize all of those documents in the database and start generating those and then displaying them within the encounters as it gets through the documents. So if offline document processor for some reason gets shut down and it's halfway into the day, you guys had a very busy clinic, you can go ahead and spin up 1, 2, 3 different services of the offline document processor and different services to get that information caught up. So they're not gone if it's not there. It will be available. It'll get queued up, and then once it gets started, it'll be available for you guys. Excuse me. So once you guys go ahead and start the offline document processor, if you guys launch it, this is what it'll look like. So within here, you guys have an option to start or stop the service. It'll let you know if it's running. In this instance, we've got it running. It's nice and green. It's connected. We're connected to the NG prod database. Right here, I don't have any examples in here, but it would go ahead and give us a status. If it's running specific documents, usually it'll pick up 1 or 2 at a time, and it's fairly quick. As it goes through them, it'll go ahead and generate them and display them here. You guys will have another grid at the bottom that will go ahead and display all of those documents that are queued up and next in line to be generated. If I go ahead and select my log here, I'll be able to see the queue manager within here. So, let's say, for instance, you guys have some documents that have been failing within the system. I can go ahead and select fail. I can go ahead and say show previous so many days within there. And then I can go ahead and select refreshes. It'll show me all my failed or canceled documents. Now, canceled documents, a user, if they go in to generate, let's say, a master IM, and then they go and generate it again, they can go ahead and cancel it to be sent to the offline document processor, and then it'll go ahead and generate for them manually on the front end within the EHR. Failed could fail for a number of reasons. Most of the time, a failed document happens because there's something wrong within a macro within the document that's generated within the EHR. So if you guys are seeing a bunch of documents failing, my recommendation, you do have the patient's name here, you do have the encounter, go ahead, launch that patient in the EHR, go to that encounter, try to generate that encounter directly on that encounter. And most likely you'll probably get an error there as well. In that case, you need to go ahead and investigate, what's going on, what's wrong with this document. Sometimes it'll go ahead and give you an error. You might need to go into Document Builder and make an adjustment to there. So that's first line of defense. If you guys do fix the macro within a document, and there's a bunch of failed documents within here, and we need those on the encounters, but we don't want our users to go through and have to regenerate all those. We can go ahead and control and select a bunch of them within here, and we can go ahead and click resubmit down here. That will go ahead and resubmit all of my failed ones after I've made that adjustment to my document macro, so it works properly for me, and then it'll start regenerating those encounters. Now, one thing I'll let you guys know, if it's been a while and the encounter's already locked, these documents will display as an addendum on that encounter. So don't be shocked if you guys see those. If it's already locked, it will create an addendum if it's added after the fact. But this is a nice way to go through and resubmit any one of those failed options in there. All right, so the next option I'm going to go through and show you guys how to set up your documents to be sent to the offline document processor. So you guys do have the ability within NextGen to configure without any customization to select which documents will go to the offline document processor. You guys are going to go to File, System Practice Template. Then we're going to go ahead and go to our document configuration template. I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of the template next, but there's 3 options within this template available to you to set up. So set chart note to offline generation basically configures the option to generate the chart note offline. So if you guys are using the chart note, this will send the chart note to offline document generator anytime it's generated. If you don't want to use this, we would go ahead and uncheck this box, and that won't be available there within there. Next one is set master document to offline generation. This configures the option to generate the master document offline. Again, if you clear this option, the master document will get generated normally. Again, offline generation could save you time that the provider could be spent, doing other items within there. Set template other than master document and chart line to offline document generation. Sends the document generation offline on the respective templates. By selecting this checkbox, you can also configure the Generate Document button in the communication panel to submit the telephone call communication document for offline generation. So telephone call communication, that's one that's often missed to be generated. This way, users usually don't have to review or read the information within that telephone call. So why not send that to the offline document processor so they can just go ahead and hit the button, move on, close the chart, move on to the next one, and then that document will go ahead and display within the encounter once that document's been generated. So different options available for the configuration template depending on if you guys use chart note, master documents, and then so on. So like I said, you guys have your configuration home here. We've got our different selections here on the left-hand side. We've got our document configuration. I'm not going to go through all of these today, but we'll go ahead and go through some of the options that I just discussed in the earlier one. So enable auto-generating visit document on submit code. So this controls on finalize as soon as the provider submits the code to go ahead and generate those documents. Now, if I go ahead and after that say set master document to offline generation, now what happens on the finalize? Provider goes to finalize, they'll go ahead and calculate their code, they'll submit their code, it'll go ahead and give them a little pop-up that it's sending the document to the offline document processor, provider can close that chart, move on to the next patient, and then so on, keep repeating the process. At the end of the day, they'll go to their PAQ, sign off on all of their documents, and everything will be completed. So I'll save them hopefully a little bit of time during busy clinic hours where they're not, watching these documents generate. There's also the option to build out a custom trigger. So if you guys have any template editing experience, there is the availability within NextGen. Your action would be just launch document. In this case, I have my master IM document selected. I can go ahead and select that I want this to be sent offline. Immediate would be watching it generate within the EHR. And then I can go ahead and select a specific server that I want this to be sent to. So if this, if you guys could set up a specific server, and say, this server, I want all of my, these consents to be sent to this one specific server because I need them done a little bit quicker and I want it to be dedicated for that. I can go ahead and select within there, or I can just leave it at first available. And if I have it running on multiple servers, it'll go ahead and pick and choose which server the information needs to be run to. So a couple options. NextGen does give you the configuration options. If you guys do have custom documents out there that you guys have customized, you guys do have the ability to send those to the offline document processor. So definitely a good time saver for your providers. Again, if the offline document processor isn't running, those documents are never lost. So that's not a worry for you guys. That information will be available once the offline document processor is started back up again within NextGen. All right, and that completes our presentation for today.
Alrighty, I guess we do have a couple minutes for some questions. So my first question was from the beginning of the presentation. I believe it was when Fred was talking about restarting. Someone asked, is this not necessary if we are hosted by NextGen?
I believe that's, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to answer that, Yvette?
No, I'll let you answer it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe they should have the scheduled tasks in place to take care of that. If there is an issue where you notice that synchronizations are not taking place, I would definitely open up a ticket with them. But they should have the scheduled task in place to automatically restart the ODP daily. Typically, as long as that's done daily, really don't run into too many issues. It's when that scheduled task is not put into place and the offline document processors run for days or weeks at a time. There is possible occurrences where suddenly it'll error out, it'll be in a stop state, and then which means that the ODP needs to be restarted again. So those that scheduled task should be already implemented and automatically restarted on a daily basis. But if you'd like, you can definitely reach out to them to confirm that.
Alrighty, thank you. I did have another question. Can I send all documents to the offline document processor?
So you can. NextGen does give you the configuration for the master and the chart note, telephone call, and so on. But if you want, like for instance, your documents and letters or document library, those don't have a configuration, but you can make a copy of that template if you guys know how to customize and then change that trigger to go to offline. But some of those documents, if it's a short, quick document, like within documents and letters, that user, if it's a normal labs letter, for instance, the user is going to generate that, and they're probably going to print it or do some action with that. So that might make more sense to generate immediately versus sending to the offline document processor.
That makes sense. Okay, and if the offline document processor is not running, what will happen to the documents?
Yep. So good question. So like I said before, I mentioned it a couple times, that's usually a fear, what if the offline document processor isn't running? And here, it's midday and we just find out that the documents aren't displayed on the encounter. Once that ODP is fired back up and restarted, it might take a bit. You might want to run 1, 2, or 3, depending on how large you guys are, so we can get caught up with that information. But once it's started, it's going to queue up all of those documents from the day and start generating them one by one and popping them into those encounters.
Okay. And then what happens if someone clears out the pharmacy range in the file maintenance?
So if you guys don't have a range set within file maintenance, the NCF has nothing to reference to. So your pharmacies will not be updated or new pharmacies will not be downloaded. So you always want to make sure that you leave, like I said, I recommend usually putting the zip code to all of your locations and doing either a 30, 60-mile radius and just leaving that in there so it has something to reference to and something to pull from when it's importing the new pharmacies and doing the matching.
Gotcha. All right. And the only other question was something I was going to review anyway. You will all be receiving email follow-ups with a link to both the recording and a link to the slide deck. So you will have those available. It usually does come out within about 24 hours. So just be watching your email. It comes out just like the invite did at the beginning. And then thank you again, everybody, for your time. We hope that this information, we know it was a lot. We hope it was very helpful for you. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If you know your rep, you can reach out to them directly or feel free to send a message to info@emedapps.com. And of course, our phone number, if you want to call in directly, that works as well. But thank you again for your time. We hope this has been a great use of your time and be looking for the follow-up and we will go from there. You guys have a great day.